If you don't move it, you'll lose it. Imagine if you are a motivated, extremely active, stubborn, yet hardworking 30-year-old. You enjoy working, going to watch car races, taking your children bowling, going for long rides in the car, and visiting friends. Periodically, you start to feel some aches and pains in your knees. The pain begins to worsen over time. As a man who's not very health conscious, you shrug it off. After all, you are stubborn. Who needs a doctor for a little pain? This is something a little Advil can fix. Eventually, taking Advil becomes a daily procedure. 1 or 2 a day turns into multiple tablets a day. You start to become unresponsive to the pain medication. You start to notice intense swelling in your knees. Deep down, you know something else must be wrong. With some coaching from family, you see a knee specialist. You have rheumatoid arthritis, a chronic inflammatory autoimmune disorder. It affects the lining of joints, causing a painful swelling that can result in bone erosion and joint deformity. Symptoms include tender, warm, swollen joints, morning stiffness that can last for many hours, firm bumps under the skin, fatigue, fever, and weight loss. Although it begins affecting smaller joints, it can spread to wrists, knees, ankles, elbows, hips, and shoulders. But there is some hope. Doctor says symptoms come and go. There can be periods of remission. We can control this to an extent, but it requires some work on your part. There are physical therapy options, regular exercise, massage, and hot or cold packs on swollen joints. If you don't move it, you'll lose it, says his doctor. But his knees start to worsen. Physical therapy isn't his cup of tea. They fill with fluid and are drained irregularly. After being drained is no longer effective, they begin to scrape them. He can still walk using a cane. Then sometime later, he needs to use a walker. He can still dress himself with some assistance. He spends most of his time in bed or sitting. Getting around becomes more difficult. Then one day, he falls. He gets up, but he is pretty hurt. He sees a doctor who recommends knee replacements, but he refuses, not wanting to deal with the risks or recovery. Sometime later, he falls again. This time, he hurt his knee so badly he is now permanently bedbound and chair-fast. This is where I found my geriatric interviewee, now 65 years old, sitting up in bed watching TV. He seemed comfortable. He had his assistive devices nearby. His apartment in the high-rise is neat and clean. While he was telling me his story, I began my assessments. The following information was gathered. First, I noticed his hands and used the cat's index for ADLs. He tells me he needs full assistance with bathing, dressing, toileting, and transferring. He has complete self-control over urination and defecation, also is able to feed himself from plate to mouth. Preparation of food is done by his caretaker, his son. He is unable to walk. However, based off of the Hendrick model, he is still considered a high risk for falls because he is a male and unable to rise without assistance. Although he carries some extra weight and is immobile, his nutrition based off of the MSA places him at a normal nutritional status. He eats well, has no weight loss, no stress, and no depression. He scores high on the Braden scale for pressure sore wrist. Although he has no sensory perception impairment, is rarely moist, and has excellent nutrition, his activity level is low. He also has a potential problem for friction in chairs during transfers. After viewing his swollen joints, I can't help but wonder about his pain. He tells me he would rate it as an 8. It is a constant, dull, achy pain. Some days are worse than others. His only relief is medication. Throughout the years, he has tried many different types. He thinks he is finally on one that provides the most relief. His daily medications are oxycodone, acetaminophen, ferrous sulfate, omeprazole, and 1 a day 50+. A care plan for these type of problems would include a nursing diagnosis of impaired physical mobility related to joint stiffness, as evidenced by limited range of motion. His goals are to move more muscle groups with improved progress in 1 week. Interventions are to perform resistance exercises that involve legs, hips, abdomen, shoulders, and arms 3 days per week. Perform stretching exercises 2 days per week for 10 to 60 seconds to improve joint range of motion. Reposition shift weight every 2 hours. A nursing diagnosis of risk for impaired skin integrity related to the patient being bedbound or chair-fast. The goal is to prevent pressure ulcers and ensure skin integrity daily. Interventions are to reposition every 2 hours with assistance of caregiver. Use lotion and moisturizers daily. Increase fluid intake to prevent dry skin. Although he has also suffered a secondary illness resulting in 2 hospital stays, his illness worsens as he ages and is fully dependent on his son, he is content in life. He is thankful to be living in his own personal space and not in a nursing home. He thanks his son for his daily care. He is accustomed to his daily routine. Occasionally, he gets out in his community using his hover-round and looks forward to visits from his grandchildren. He offers some advice. Listen to your doctor and stay active.